Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of POI Auto, and we are at the Tata Motors display at the 2023 Auto Expo, and we've got Rajan Namba with us. So, thank you, Rajan, for joining us.
Thank you for having
And
us. Yeah.
well, we are going to be asking a lot of interesting questions to Rajan, and let's see what he has to say. So, of course, Rajan, we see the Altroz iCNG also announced the Punch CNG, and you have announced earlier also some CNG models. So, how's the response coming for CNG models in the Tata portfolio?
I think the response and the demand has been quite robust. We know that the CNG market has seen quite an escalation on the pricing of CNG, which has slowed it down initially, but it's again found its baseline, and it's picking up from there, especially with the launches across the industry. And certainly, this is our effort to boost not only our portfolio but also to provide the consumer a very, very compelling argument as to why Tata Motors is in the front of innovation. And I think that the two-cylinder, innovation here is a game changer because the one of the major deficiencies in CNG situation was that the boot space was being compromised. And as I'm sure you'll probably show your viewers, and they'll be able to see that 90% of the boot space is retained, and more importantly, it's a clean volume.
Right.
It is not a part volume which is part covered by the cylinder, right? So it's an absolutely clean volume, and therefore we expect that to further boost our business. We have currently 10% of our portfolio from CNG,
Right.
and of the two models that we launched earlier, about 40% of that business is from the CNG at this point in time. And I think that the consumer has been waiting for a Punch CNG and Altra CNG, and this is coming at I think just the appropriate, just the right time.
All right. And you mentioned, how the two-cylinder technology will be a game changer, especially in terms of boot space. So, where do you see, I mean, in terms of CNG drivability, that has also been sort of a weakness. People have always said they do not feel that kind of a kick. So, with the two-cylinder, do you think you have been able to balance that while not compromising on space?
No, no, look, the impact, there is going to be no impact on the drivability with regards to the two-cylinder. It is a functional innovation, which is not going to impact the drivability of the car in any way. It just is allowing the creation of that space and taking away one more reason possibly for a customer to not consider a CNG vehicle.
And Rajan, there is a lot of push on electric vehicles across
Yes.
the country. Also, Tata Motors is having its own portfolio. Now, with so much push on electric vehicles, what kind of long-term potential do you see for CNG?
I certainly think that there's scope for both. I mean, we've seen petrol, we've seen diesel, we have seen CNG, which has long been there and found another level in the last couple of years, and of course electric. I think it's a big market today. Our portfolio of electric, because we're the leaders in the business, is about 8%. Overall, in the auto industry, particularly on the four-wheeler, I think is 1 or 2%. So there is so much of headroom for electric to grow, but at the same time, with 98-99% of the business being ICE, it's not going away soon. And within that ICE, and because there's a certain familiarity and comfortable with ICE and certain costs and prices related to that, the CNG, the combination of a CNG and ICE is an additional comfort to the customer. And I think therefore, from that perspective, it's going to be a while before we can pronounce the death of ICE as that people tend to seem to want to talk about. But it's quite a way, which is why we have declared 2040 as our goal for neutrality.
Right. And also, when you look at the overall body styles, you have Punch, which is sort of a very small SUV style. Now, what is the latest? What are the recent trends and changes that you're seeing in this SUV adoption? Because everyone wants an SUV. So, what kind of a pressure does that put on you as a car maker in terms of, say, designing or cost ability? And what kind of trends are you seeing in this segment?
I think the SUV piece is relatively strong, and it's a strong tennis here to stay for some amount of time. Already 65% of our portfolio, increasingly more and more of the industry recognizing the power of the SUV portfolio and making introductions in it. So I think that as a trend is there for some time to stay. I think each brand will interpret the definition of SUV in its different ways, some more genuine than others. But I think that the four-wheel drive is something that increasingly pops up as a question when you're talking about SUV. And then of course the interiors of the car can and should be no different from any other car in terms of technology, in terms of connectivity, in terms of infotainment, screen size, or touch screens and so on and so forth. So I think that there's going to be a lot more development on the interiors. Of course, there's a lot of catch up to be done there. Around the exteriors, I think it's found a certain form factor, it's found a certain pace which is here to stay. But I think the electric vehicle versions of the SUVs will start to kind of uh, redefine the form factor of SUVs, and that could creep back into the ICE segment, right? But finally, my own personal thing, feeling is that over the next 10, 12 years, 15 years, car design is always going to be unique, but increasingly it is going to be a combination of exterior and interior, and not just the exteriors, because everybody's doing a great job. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You like a car, I don't like it. I love a car, you hate it, right? I'm sure you see that. So I think that's going to be the eye of the beholder kind of situation. But I think that the interiors of the car is and the differentiation and the kind of inciting that happens and the convenience that happens. That's going to be that's going to define the industry after the next 10, 15 years. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, Rajan, 65% is from the SUV body style. Now, if I come back to CNG, you already put CNG in hatchbacks and small SUVs. Do you see CNG as a viable option for also larger offerings that you have, the larger SUVs? Or do you think CNG technology is limited up to, say, hatchbacks or small sedans?
I think on the larger cars or larger SUVs, there's a certain expectation of power and performance, which will probably get diluted with a CNG combination. So I think that would be diluting the essence of those brands if we were to do that.
Right.
And you know, that's my perspective on it, and I would personally avoid. I think that the market is here, the volumes are here, and there's a very strong buyer and a very strong brand sitting there. Why to dilute one over the other?
And Rajan, can you tell us, it's new year 2023, what you are expecting from 2023 in terms of growth, in terms of supply issues that have been affecting the industry over this last couple of years? How do you see 2023 as a change?
I think we've been constantly seeing easing of the supply situation. Things keep happening, now and then. But I think as a brand, as a team, as a company, we've been pretty much, what do you call, traversing these waters quite well over the last year and a half, and we continue to do so. So I think that covers as far as that is concerned. I think the industry consensus is that probably about 8% ballpark, give or take a percent or two, is where the growth will be this year, because we've seen overall there's been a slight slowdown as such. But I think that may be temporary. One doesn't know. We'll have to see how things pan out. I think a lot of the launches also tend to slow things down because people want to wait and watch. And now post Auto Expo with announcements of so many new launches, who knows? But we have seen that over the last 2-3 years that once the dust settles, there is suddenly again there is a surge in demand. So I think it's difficult to tell, but 8%, 9% should be par for the course.
And Rajan, Tata Motors seems to have one of the largest and most extensive displays here. You have made a lot of announcements, announced new vehicles, but it's just the start of the year.
Yeah.
Now, what can our viewers or your potential buyers expect over this entire course of
You
the
always
year?
ask me this question. My answer is always the same. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. I think you'll just have to wait and see. But in February, as you know, we're launching the new Dark
Yeah,
with ADAS.
right.
So I think, and with the new infotainment screen, so that's a big move which is coming very, very shortly. And as you know, Dark is extremely popular in the Harrier and Safari. It's nearly 50% of our business there. So I think that's something new around the corner. We've seen the CNGs here, which should be around the corner as well, that is in a few more months. And there are a couple of other things that I'd like to surprise you with. Yeah?
I look forward to that.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
you did mention ADAS now. Now, when you bring ADAS, I'm sure you would have done your market research. Where would you say today ADAS ranks for Tata Motors' potential customer, especially in that premium SUV segment, is ADAS as a requirement something which you see in a nascent stage, or do you think customers are at a point where it could probably be a differentiating factor?
I've talked to a few customers, friends who have ADAS vehicles, and they buy it for the ADAS, but they say that we end up switching it off because on the Indian roads you can't really use it, right? But I've used it. I've traveled in cars on the highway with it, and it's reasonably useful. But so I think that like everything, it takes time to adapt to new technologies, but consumers always want to have everything. We may not use all of it at one time together, but the lifetime of the car is at least 4 to 5 years. So we have to learn to adapt to those technologies, and those who adopt have the option of switching it off, and those, those who don't adopt have the option of switching it off, and those who adapt, it's fine. But I think it's important for us as a brand to introduce these safety technologies, right? And show the customer that we're prepared, that we are ready, that they can come to us for enhanced safety as well, and that's what we are doing with these vehicles as a start.
Brilliant. I think that answers our questions for the day. And well, that is what Rajan Amba had to say about Tata Motors and bringing in a lot of action over the course of this year. So thank you so much. It was
Thank you.
lovely talking to you as usual.
Cheers. Take care.